Have you guys been seeing these videos lately that are all about how Gen Z and Gen Alpha can't read? They're like really underperforming in terms of education and schooling. And there's just all these videos that are like, oh my God, our future is doomed. These kids can't read. When that trend first started, I took it pretty seriously. Like, I was watching a lot of those videos and I was like, oh my God, I guess the pandemic and social media, AI, TikTok, short form content, this combination of factors must have like truly brain broken the youth and turned them into actual like homunculi, basically. But then, time passed, this trend persists, we don't really seem to be experiencing this massive apocalyptic outcome of kids not being able to read, and I've also learned what percentage of American educated adults, and when I say educated, I mean they at least passed high school, they at least got a diploma and you know, got through high school. It is shocking how few of them can read above a 5th grade level. The older that Americans get, in fact, the less skilled they are at reading. This is borne out in a lot of data. The literacy rates among Americans are immensely low, and it is adults who make up the vast majority of that statistic. The fact is, most signs everywhere in America are written specifically at a 3rd grade reading level, even if it's things that are meant to be entirely used by adults, because they recognize that that is the way that you get the most people in America to be able to understand what is being communicated. That's why you don't really encounter that much sophisticated language, I guess you could call it, on a daily basis, because the world is built for people who can't read above a 5th grade reading level. If you can read, if you can sit down and just bust out all of the Lord of the Rings books in a year, you have better reading skills, better comprehension skills probably, and better patience than the vast majority of Americans, and way more desire to actually read. When I realized this, I just found it way harder to take this whole Gen Z and Gen Alpha can't read thing quite as seriously. But I was recommended covering this video specifically because it's another one of these, like, Gen Z can't read, you know, raising the alarm bells type videos, but it's very recent. And since this trend has been going on for years now, I'm curious to see what it has turned into. Like, what grades are we talking about? What are we pointing to here? Because, man, even among, like I said, high school diploma havers, the rate of high reading levels is low. Americans are just not very literate. Let's check this video out. Let's learn about how the kids still can't read.
There is a crisis happening in the classrooms, and the teachers on the front lines are the ones sounding the alarms.
So yesterday I came to the realization my students can't read.
I teach 7th grade, they are still performing on the 4th grade.
Okay, that video right there, this one, I recognize this one because it's like 2 years old, 3 years old at this point. Also, what are we still just using TikToks of teachers complaining about their classrooms? Because what I'm pulling from is the actual, like, literacy, like the statistical data collected on American literacy. It is, God, what was it? Like 60% of Americans or more can't read? Hold on, let's see. American adults literacy rates. Whew, here we go, chat. At first it sounds promising, but then the longer you read into the data, you're like, oh no. Approximately 79% of US adults are functionally literate. Okay. 80% of US adults are functionally literate. That sounds good, right? While the remaining 21% are classified as functionally illiterate. Nearly a quarter of Americans is a pretty large amount of people to be functionally illiterate, but what about the 70, or, you know, what about the less than 80% that are functionally literate? How literate are they? Meaning they lack the basic reading skills required to complete it. When analyzing reading proficiency based on the Program for the International Assessment of Adult Competencies, or PIAAC, criteria, level 1 and below, around 28% of US adults, that is of the 80% that are literate, 28% score at the lowest level of literacy. They can comprehend simple, short paragraphs, but struggle significantly with complex texts, multi-step instructions, or multi-page documents. So we are talking about, we're talking over 40% of Americans are either functionally illiterate or level 1 and below literacy competence. All right. Level 2, approximately 30% show basic reading proficiency, but face challenges with complex texts. So that's a little more in line average, about 30% of people. And then level 3 and above, about 43 to 46% of US adults demonstrate strong reading and comprehension skills required for advancing tasks. Only 43 to 46% of Americans are considered to have strong reading skills, while you've got 28% that have level 1 or below, meaning they are not great readers at all, and another 21% that are functionally illiterate. And we are only talking about adult Americans with this data here, by the way. So, with all that in mind, maybe we need more than just TikTok videos to see this as anything other than, well, yeah, Americans are stupid, and now we're finally talking about it on social media. Don't get me wrong, I'm not against any changes or education reforms. I think it's pretty clear we need them, because look at the adult population as it stands. My point is, we're raising the alarm bells on something as if it's a new problem, when it is in fact a very old problem that we have done nothing about for far too long. So, let's get into it.
Level.
When I tell you that these babies cannot read, they cannot write, and they cannot comprehend, I'm not being funny.
You know the thing kids go to school to do, like learn the fundamental skills used to go through everyday life? Yeah, that's not clicking anymore.
Vast majority of students that I teach in my class do not know how to read, write, comprehend, critical think. They just cannot.
And okay, it's easy to chop it up to the pandemic, maybe them damn phones, maybe the kids who never learned the basics were the first ones to multiply.
Everyone's always saying, oh, the kids are lost. Like, the kids don't know how to read, they don't know how to write, they're so disrespectful, they have no social skills, they're just iPad kids times 1,000. Like, it's so bad, it's so awful. Yeah, because the hot Cheeto girls became parents first.
Regardless of the cause.
I mean, there is probably an element of truth to that, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if you guys saw this data, because I like to pull from data on this stuff, but Gen Z parents physically abuse their children at some of the highest rates we have ever recorded. Gen Z parents hit their children at like literal higher than boomer rates. It's actually insane. Like, it's something like a 2 in 3 chance or something like that, that if a parent is Gen Z, they are hitting their kid hard and often. And the fact is, you could argue it's like, oh my god, what the fuck? Is Gen Z just a generation of child abusers? You know, and you would think that would be the opposite. Gen Z would all be about breaking the cycle. But then you realize, wait a second, how old are Gen Zers? The oldest Gen Zers are just now hitting 30. And even then, like, if you're in this America, if you're having kids at 30, you've probably made a stupid decision. Like, I'm being real. If you're Gen Z and you're 30, you're not financially well off enough or stable enough to have had kids. Because the world has been specifically designed and has changed to the point where there are no 30-year-olds who are responsibly able to start families right now. That's too young. Like, you need to be, like, in your 40s to start, like, your life for real now in this economy, if you're lucky. And so the idea that, the idea that these parents, like Gen Z, is just going to be a generation of child abusers, I don't think that's really the case. I think it's more like what that girl just said. It was the hot Cheeto girls who became parents first. It was the kind of, teen pregnancies. It was the, getting pregnant in college, and then not, making the right choice and getting an abortion. Let's be real. It's the right choice. If you're in college, you get pregnant, you should probably have an abortion. That's just my opinion. Probably shouldn't just let your life get ruined by having a kid you're not ready for and then ruin that kid's life. But a lot of people made that choice. They have kids really young, and the younger you are when you have kids, the higher the likelihood that you abuse your kid. It is borne out in data.
The clock is still ticking. From kids
And just going off of the child abuse stats, you can imagine those Gen Z, like 19-year-old parents or whatever, 22-year-old parents are probably not very good at, like, supporting their kids' education. They could be. I've known young parents that are very good at supporting their kids' education. My mom was a young parent who was very good at supporting my education. But it's not always the case.
To teens, almost young adults, they keep hitting more milestones. They keep absorbing content and trends meant for people twice their age, but their development isn't keeping up.
She wore a sahalat of clothes that were extra during whatever, bro. She wore a, oh baby.
You want to know what the trick here is? I'm pretty sure they are reading that handwriting off of the cue card, the little stock card. Now, that is absolutely readable to me. I'm not gonna lie, she wore a silhouette of clothes that were extraordinary, but somewhat gauche, obviously. You know, okay, now let's be real. Gauche? Really? Really? You expect some high schooler or middle schooler to know the word gauche? Come on, the gauche, that one's a cheat, all right? Every one of those kids was supposed to fuck up on gauche. None of them were supposed to know what gauche was. But, like, handwriting makes a big difference. Are we gonna pretend like it doesn't? Like, if you're reading something for the first time out loud and it's written in anything other than perfect print, it's gonna slow down your reading speed a little bit. IDK, what gauche is, not gonna lie, tacky. Tacky, basically. Or a little bit, like, tackily rude. Oh, how gauche. I was the kid that loved reading aloud in class. Lol, yes, I was bullied. Well, I love reading aloud in class, too. That was my favorite thing, but you're usually reading some, like, fine, or not fine, but perfect, you know, print text. When you're reading someone's handwriting, it can be a little harder.
You wear a silhouette of clothes
This whole clip is
that
gauche.
were... I don't know that word. I don't even know how to read. I don't know why.
I'm sure you've all seen the videos and the TikToks. Gen Alpha can't read, they don't play outside, brain rot, iPad kid. It's a conversation that's spiraling all over the internet. But
Okay, ask the average American boomer to point to Spain on a map. Ask the average American boomer to point to Alaska on a map. Like, come on. Like, are we being real here? Like, are we being real? We've seen the, like, man on the... If we're using the same logic, have you guys seen the man on the street videos where it's some guy asking a bunch of boomer conservatives to point out countries on the map, and they really don't know anything about the world outside of the US? Or just, like, go up to random adults and ask them, like, who was the first president of the United States? You will be shocked. Mind blown at how many grown men and women will look you dead in the eye and say, Abe Lincoln? Thomas Jefferson? That is real as fuck, dog.
in this video, we need to talk about the root cause of the crisis that no one else is discussing, and also how these kids were basically set up to fail from the jump. Welcome to the Girl Talk you didn't know you needed, and I'm not saying you have to subscribe. Your class.
Xander Hall, I'll do you one better. Ask them to point out where New Hampshire is on the map. Yeah, ask them to point to other U.S. states. That's a good one. Zan, have you ever seen the beauty pageant contestant being asked why many Americans can't find America on a map? Her answer was legendary. I don't know about that one, but I do remember when, I think it was the Iraq War was going on, and Britney Spears was on television doing an interview, and they asked her for her opinion on the Iraq War, and her response was like, I don't know. I'm like 17. I'm 17 and I'm a singer. Like, why are you asking me that? It was like the best answer in my opinion.
See, I know you don't just give those away for free, but hopefully at the end of this video, we become bestie enough for you to take that next step. Now, considering we're talking about how important it is to be prepared for adult life, that also includes your finances. This video is sponsored by Chime, America's #1 choice for banking, and they're offering a $75 bonus when you open a new Chime checking account using my link. Lately, I've been trying to be a lot more smarter with my funds. I'm getting groceries, I'm paying my car note, I'm getting gas, which have y'all seen the prices of gas lately? Chime.
You can cut out the gas. That's a big one right now. Like financially, gas is like the beer of your budget. Like when you're like working out and trying to diet, and you're like, what is doing it to me right now? What is doing it? And you're like, oh, I need to cut out beer. That's what's killing me right now. Financially, gas is that. Gas is that thing where you're like, oh my god, where's all my money? Oh, okay. Let's try to figure out a way to drive less.
Chime comes through though, because while I'm
That's where we're at right now.
necessities using my Chime card, they offer 5% cash back on any category of your choice, meaning you can get 5% cash back on your travel expenses, going out to eat, and you can also change your selection every month. Now, while getting cash back is definitely the fun side of spending money, the
all right
bonus today. There's a huge reason why the older generation looks at the current classroom situation and shakes their head. Most likely because they remember when the entire system was built to prepare kids for the heavy responsibilities of the world.
Of going to war and being a housewife.
Bulwark of the American form of government is education. For true democracy can exist only among a people prepared from...
Okay, keep in mind, by the way, these kids had like a quarter less science and history and maybe like 10 to 20% less math to learn back then because it hadn't been discovered yet. So there's that to count, or happened yet, so there's that. But then on top of that, okay, are we really going to act like these classrooms were like super high education standards? Like, really? Like, those are not even boomers that you're seeing here. These are like the boomers' parents. This is like silent generation here. The silent generation, I mean, good lord, like, I don't really know if their education had much of anything to do about it. They went to war. They fought. The economy experienced a massive boom in the US, primarily around manufacturing, because most of Europe's entire manufacturing sector was bombed to shit on both sides. So America's like, we make everything now. And you could be a legitimate lead paint addled retard and make like the equivalent of 120K a year back then, you know, on a assembly line. At least the buying power equivalent of like 120K a year today on an assembly line, right? So it's like, you know, clearly maybe the education wasn't the reason why past generations were more successful. Because these generations were just as stupid, from what I gather. They just had it easier.
Childhood for the responsibilities of citizenship.
Like, these kids literally grew up into a world where the rest of the world was kneecapped utterly, and America was just had a monopoly on not being bombed to shit. Like, that is the world they grew up in, and it's like, well, they must have had a really good education to have turned out so well off.
Back in the day, these students were learning.
Outside of the war, you could argue they had it easier than the boomers did.
But it went way past your basic math, okay? Sure, they learned how to read, right alongside learning how to manage a household and handle hands-on trades.
The two older children go to an LCC.
Is this YouTuber even a little feminist? She's not giving any like alarm bells of being like a right-wing anti-feminist type, but it's weird. It's a weird way as a woman to frame what we're seeing here. Right? Like, this is literally like the patriarchy definition right here. Yes, women, you're a maid. You're a maid. You're to be trained to be a trad wife. And that's what we're seeing here. And, well, obviously, the trad wives won the war. Their work won the war. Not trying to take away from their hard work, but, like, we shouldn't have a society that tries to train women to be housewife maids and men to be, like, self-sacrificing, work themselves to death, and don't complain about it a little bit automatons. That then go home and get drunk and beat their wives because their lives suck so much and they need alcohol to get through it so they don't kill themselves instead of going to work the next day. Like, it was a pretty rough time, all right? Also, they were all on meth, particularly the housewives, because they were all on drugs. They were all on drugs.
Learning how to manage a...
Also, the husband would come home and beat the wife if she was, like, a pound heavier than he liked, so meth.
household and handle hands-on trades.
The two older children go to an LCC primary school. They learn not only from books, they also learn how to become good citizens able to earn their living. Girls, for instance, enjoy domestic science. Boys, carpentry.
Domestic science?
Look, we all know schools back then.
No, unironically though, whatever that domestic science class is, everyone should have had to take it. Genuinely. Everyone should be forced to learn how to cook in school. Cooking should just straight up be a class, and it should be required to graduate. Genuinely. I almost feel like a pre-accounting class as well, you know? Like, everyone's always like, school never taught me how to do my taxes. Well, How about we have pre-accounting? Even as if it's just an elective, that would be sick. I don't remember there being any pre-accounting type class at my school. You know, that would have been sick. Or so, I mean, like literally any kind of like a life skills class, which they do have those, but they're, dude, every single person I've ever known who had a life skills class in school, it was a fuck off class where the teacher was just not all, like, it was a fuck off class. And it sucks because that kind of class, as not a fuck off class, would be valuable to many people.
Were a lot more stricter than schools today. I'm pretty sure your grandparents have told you they used to beat us with rulers back in the day. And they weren't lying.
When I was your age, I was beating my own ass!
The entire classroom was ran on a strict program and pure fear.
And the schools could be pretty strict. Students would sit politely on wooden benches for fear of caning.
Come up here this instant, you little upstart. I'll show you who's teaching this class.
Now with me showing...
Yeah. Yeah, there's a pretty obvious reason why kids started bringing guns to school. That's a fucked up joke.
You all of those clips. I'm not saying we need to
I wonder
go back
why.
to the 1950s.
Why does America have that problem?
Reasons. I'm also...
No, we stopped doing that a long time ago. We stopped doing that a long time ago. When did schools stop paddling, though? Because I feel like everybody older than Gen Z tries to claim it. You know what I mean? Like everybody tries to claim they went to school when paddling was a thing. Did Gen X have it? Are the Gen Xers lying when they say it was still around? Or are they being truthful? I wonder how many principals got like a surprisingly good right hook when they went to try to paddle a kid. And were like, oh, fuck, I did not expect. Oh. I wonder if that ever happened. That had to have happened, right?
Not trying to prove that kids back in the day were any better than kids today. I really just want to show you how much the bar for academics, discipline, and just the expectations for a child to keep up in general has been lowered. The old school system used to operate on...
I got paddled, I'm 46. Good God. Yeah, if paddling was still around in school when I was a kid, I want to say that I would have, like, fought back, like, viciously. And that, like, the paddling stopping would not stop what I would be doing in response to it. Like, I'm petty. And I was petty when I was a kid. I would assume I would have the bravery to, in response to that, if I couldn't win fighting off the paddle, I would just wreck the teacher or principal's office in response. You know, that I'd hope that's what I'd do. I'd hope that's what I'd do.
Something way bigger than the standard.
It's such a weird molestery punishment. It's so molestery. And also, talk to, like, your Gen X parents or any Gen X friends and ask them what teachers were like when they were kids. They were so creepy and rapey and got away with that so badly. Like based on the stories I've heard, it was bad. Like, it's still bad. There's tons of stories of shit like that happening today. But it definitely seems like it was a every day, every school, every girl went through it kind of experience not that long ago. Not that many decades ago.
Expect children to learn. They taught them the huge responsibility of handling themselves, meaning they were forcing them to look at their own actions, fix, and then learn from then on.
Hank, I can teach you how to punctuate and spell and how to write themes. But more important, you must learn to face responsibility. While you're a student at Lincoln High, it's your job to know what the lesson is, how it's to be done, and when it's expected.
That's actually what school is meant to teach, by the way. It's not really, like, I mean, obviously you're being tested, you're meant to learn. It is an education, but the real value of getting an education is learning how to learn. Like, when you're in school, you're probably not thrilled about it. You're probably not thrilled about the things you're learning. And you're probably not even going to commit most things you learn in school to memory. That doesn't matter, though. The fact is, you will have learned by the time you graduate from school. You will have learned. And you will know how to learn. You will know how your brain best records information and best recalls it in order to put it to action in the future. As much as, like, my grades were pretty good in school, but I definitely didn't have, like, I couldn't, like, full scholarship my way to, like, some insane college degree, right? So, like, you know, I wasn't, like, some insanely, like, I didn't get an insanely good education from school. Like, I didn't get a ton of knowledge from it. You know, I'm not some brainiac, but what I think I did get that was extremely valuable was understanding of my learning style, how I best learn things. And my job as a streamer that does politics in a lot of cases is to basically, like, when I have a debate coming up that's on anything that's not just culture war nonsense, I have to do research. I have to basically study like I'm studying for an exam. Only imagine if you had to do the exam in front of the whole class on the whiteboard, and if you fail in front of everybody, and the whole class laughs at you. Like, that's how you gotta study and research for a debate. And, you know, that learning how to learning how to effectively store that knowledge and recall it, that's what I found or find most useful in my daily life that I took from schooling.
I can't make you responsible. That you have to do for yourself. That's all, Hank. Thank you.
Like that teacher said, she can teach her kids how to read, write, and punctuate. But the real magic had to do with them building the habits, the discipline, and the focus that allowed them to even succeed academically in the first place.
But when we go to the library, we are very quiet because we know it's the room where we read to ourselves. And you know, we have found that knowing when to be quiet is a part of growing up.
If we wanted to look at it how it looks, these kids were trained.
Stand up, young man. Are you a Negro, Travis?
No.
Are you a flunky, Travis?
No.
What are you?
I am black and beautiful.
And what else are you?
Okay.
Are you a boy?
No.
What are you?
Oh, man.
Think about it like the
Aw.
school day being an exercise for
adorable.
their mental endurance and a way to make sure that they were ready for that high standard already expected out of them. Of course, they were taught the basics, but they were also taught how to think critically, retain information, and just make sure their lives were organized.
Bert helped me draw up a homework schedule that lists my subjects, the assignments, when they were made, and when.
Anyone else thinking what I'm thinking? What was it like to be a kid with ADHD back then in these schools? Would they just, like, kick you out of school if you had ADHD and you had a hard time organizing or keeping track of things, or you had any kind of learning disability whatsoever? I'd kill myself? Well, a lot of kids with learning disabilities back then did kill themselves. Yeah, like, yeah, they did, yeah.
They're due. I'm also learning to schedule my time a little better. So before starting any assignment, I read through and check my notes as carefully as possible. I'm finding out that the better I understand an assignment, the better I can do it.
These kids were learning time management and how to structure their responsibilities without anyone having to hold their hand. With this foundation set and being in an environment that required that strict mental discipline, the students had no other option but to lock in. A noisy classroom may be annoying today, but back in the day, it was honestly viewed as a complete failure to the learning environment.
It looks as if
Why is this random YouTube lady, like, trying to be the like school, the school headmasters in The Wall? All you are is just another brick in the wall. Boom, ba-da-da-da. Yeah, you enjoying with that? Come on, guys. Headmistress, gotcha.
But it's so noisy. Sometimes children drop things on the floor. They call across the room and talk out loud. You couldn't learn very much here. And you couldn't
Fucking
be
monsters.
proud to be part of such a noisy room, could you?
They were expecting.
How dare those little chuds not accept that their youth, the only time you get before you fucking die, where you're young and energetic. In fact, you're full of so much energy, it's impossible to stay still. You need to stay for 8 hours a day at a desk.
Not move, not turn your head, not even move your eyes off of that whiteboard. And if you even think about turning to the other kid next to you and saying something, God forbid, you're such a fucking monster. There's something wrong with you.
Like, come on, bro. Really? Like, we recognized a long time ago this did not work. It didn't. It didn't, because most kids were failing out, and we had a population of an immense population. Oh my god. Oh my god. The amount of silent generation homeless veterans was pretty significant. Because a lot of them, like they thought, okay, well, you know, I graduated high school, I'm going to the war. Maybe they were seniors. It's like, all right, I'm going straight to war. You know, they aren't even thinking about what comes after that. They get home and it's like, oh, fuck. This happened real bad with Vietnam vets, obviously, which is a while later. But still, that when you have a generation of kids, and back then it was only boys, when you have a generation of boys that goes to war, that generation gets pretty fucked up. Sure, you got the people who stayed behind and had, like, exceptions to go to college, but, like, the silent generation, the Vietnam generation, the Korean War generation, which I think was also a silent generation, like, they did not come out of it at all in a good place. They did not end up all that well. Like, they got lucky. They could have ended up a lot worse. They would have been way worse off if that had happened to them in today's America. But these kids did not turn out all right. They didn't. We're not, like, are we really going to act like the silent generation of, like, these guys did not have, like, pretty rough lives despite this education? Or that the fact that the education was so strict that a bunch of kids didn't fail out of it and end up having really bad lives? Like, don't get me wrong, we do need to get kids to lock in. That is important, but, like, other countries figured out how to do this a long time ago, and it's not through strict regimentation. It's just not how kids learn best. It doesn't work. You get about 15 minutes of attention span out of a kid in this environment, and then it's gone. You might have some excellent outliers who can stay locked in, but you got to expect kids are going to be kids, bro.
To sit completely still and be mentally engaged for hours. They went out of their way to stay on top of their workload and didn't miss a...
Remember, they had to put TV ads out for the silent generation that said, dude, did you remember to hug your kid today? I don't know about that, but I do know they did TV ads that would ask the boomers, do you know where your kid is right now? And it would run at like 8 p.m., I believe. I think it was either at 6 p.m. or 8 p.m., or it might have been 10. Might have been at 10 p.m. They would run an ad on the nightly news. Do you know where your child is right now? It's 10 p.m. And boomers would be like, I think so? Like that. That is how irresponsible of a generation the boomers were as parents, by the way. These guys, they're kids.
Single note, and if they did, they went straight to the source to get it right.
Miss Jackson, I'm sorry, but I didn't get the complete assignment for tomorrow. There was so much noise in the hall.
I know, and I'm sorry. It's
Are we... What kind of slop is this fucking video? Are we... This is not... Is this like a documentary? Or is this meant to be from a TV show? Because, listen, I'm gonna be real. I don't think there were many school documentaries that you could just pull footage from at this time. I could be wrong. But this looks like it's from a television show. Like this looks like it would be from a TV show in, like, the 70s. I could be wrong, but, I mean, this looks framed like a TV show. Or a PSA. Maybe like a school video or something, yeah.
Chapters 9 and 10. Read them and be ready to discuss them tomorrow.
Chapters 9
From the 50s?
and 10.
Okay.
Read and be ready to recite in class, as we have been doing. Is that it?
That's it. And I promise...
Why was there an accent that we had back then? Why did Americans talk like that? What? Like, yes, see? I'll go get a cigar. And we, like, and then women talked like that. What was that? How'd that happen? We didn't talk like that, like, in the 10s. In the 1910s, we weren't talking like that, I don't think. Like, all of a sudden, the 1920s hits, and it's like, hello there, see? Hi there. And the women are like, I don't even know how to imitate it. Fuck. I can't even begin to imitate that accent. I guess, is it just an Atlantic accent? Why were all Americans in the 50s and from the 20s to the 60s, like, mid-Atlantic? Why were all Americans in that time frame mid-Atlantic? Why? Like, why? I don't get it. What was that? They weren't? No, but they were, though. They were.
Us not to wait until the
It
end of
was
the
fake?
period to
Oh,
make
okay.
the assignment next time.
Thank you.
When you think about it, school was looked at as the first place that set you up to be a functioning citizen of the world. Society expected these young people to transition into
Oh, it was literally an accent constructed for TV. Oh, there you go.
adulthood immediately after graduation. You got the diploma, the baby was already on the way. You threw the graduation cap off your head and they were ready to throw you into the war next. A lot of these students were planning
Yeah, how many of those kids had a dad who came home from the war? The lucky ones did.
on going straight to college, potentially starting a family or going to war, but the first place they had to stop was school.
Yes, high school first. You need it for life in service and afterwards. You need the courses, algebra, civics.
I actually don't think you did need to be a high school graduate to be A, drafted, or B, to even enlist. I'm pretty certain you did not. I mean, you could definitely have more potential in the armed forces if you had a high school diploma, but I don't think you need it. Like, it definitely helps, but I don't think you need it.
English,
especially not when World War II is happening.
You need the
Or
activities
just happened.
and all the other things that go on around here. Things that help prepare you for life.
Now, if you're looking at these perfectly polished students and you're thinking this is way too good to be true, you're valid. Kids will always
It's
be
propaganda
kids, okay?
videos.
From 1942 to 2022, they're all the same. And no matter how much you try to mold them into a little adult, that urge to act up, lose focus, be distracted, test boundaries, on and on, that will always be in their blood.
This? What kind of behavior do you call this? Wait a minute, you stay where you are. This is the kind of behavior I might have expected of you.
That guy looks like the lawyer that Jimmy McGill has had like a lifelong like vendetta against. You guys know who I'm talking about. From Better Call Saul? Y'all know.
All I do is leave the room for a few minutes, and what do I find? Confusion, disorder. And you, what were you doing?
I was just going...
Going to what? Throw the eraser, I suppose. It's a good thing I caught you. I'll make an example out of you.
This is literally either a PSA or a television scene, and she is framing it as if this is just what schools were like back then. Like, do you think in 2060, we're gonna have, like, whatever YouTube we're using in the future, in the 1960s, there's gonna be videos about how in the 2020s, we used to be, like, it's gonna be like scenes from TV shows of, like, an organized classroom, and it's gonna be like, this is what they were actually like in classrooms in the 2020s. They were organized, they were paying attention, they were locked in, they weren't using their cyber chips embedded in their skulls to browse virtual reality video game storefronts while they're doing a test, you know? It's like, I don't know. Like, I do feel like in 50 years, we're going to be seeing, like, scenes from TV shows framed as if that's representative of what life was really like today, made for propaganda, you know? And that's what this is. This is a TV show that we're seeing a clip of here that she is pretending represents what schools were really like back then. And I'm sure it's not, like, super duper inaccurate. It's probably about as accurate as depictions of schools are today in media, which is, like, either a heavy lean into the extreme or a heavy lean into the mundane, you know? So I don't know. I'm getting really on board with this idea that the whole Gen Z can't read thing is probably just a slop talking point meant to raise alarm bells and give YouTubers a reason to make videos about it. I don't buy it, man. I don't. Like, I do think that there is a problem with dropping literacy rates. At least the data seems to suggest there is. What's the current data specifically on U.S. child literacy rates by year? I guess child is pretty broad. I guess student? High school student. Let's go with high school. High school American Even if I shouldn't even have to clarify that because I said high school. High school American literacy rates by year. Let's see. In the United States, high school literacy rates are tracked on a basic to proficient scale through the National Assessment of Education Progress, or NAEP, often called the National Report Card. In the latest evaluations, 35% of 12th grade students performed at or above the proficient level in reading. That is literally exactly the same as for the adult population. Remember, guys, it was 34 to 36% of Americans that are at a proficient reading level. Like, that aren't just literate, but are, like, quite literate. And now it says 35% of 12th grade students performed at or above the proficient level in reading, meaning there's been effectively no data change. You know, let's ask more specifically. Are school literacy rates in the U.S. dropping? Is this literally an entirely made-up narrative? Okay, hold on. Yes, school literacy rates and reading comprehension scores in the U.S. have been dropping significantly. Data from the National Assessment of Educational Progress, known as the Nation's Report Card, reveals the scale of the decline. High school seniors' reading scores for 12th graders have fallen to their lowest levels since the assessment first began in 1992. That's as long as we've been doing it? With roughly 1/3 of seniors lacking basic reading skills. It's equivalent to the real, like, adult world. 8th graders, approximately 33% of 8th graders are testing below basic in reading. This means they struggle to summarize a passage or even follow a basic order of events. 4th graders, around 40% of 4th graders now fall into the below basic reading category. That seems to be where the real worry is. The high schoolers are on par with adults, and how adults have been for a while now, according to the same data collectors. But it seems like 4th graders, I mean, maybe you should expect 4th graders to not be, I'm assuming we're grading it by what 4th graders should be capable of. If 40% of them are falling below basic reading, that sounds a lot more concerning. But you'll notice, was there any mention of any data in this video? We're like 11 minutes into it. Does this video actually, like, show any... Okay, hold on. We got something here? Okay, rising high school dropout rates from the 90s.
More students started mentally checking out of the education system entirely. But by the 1980s, the government realized this individual problem was turning into a national one. They created a report that made it clear that the individual problem of a student failing has now turned into a national one that was threatening the country's future.
The Nation at Risk report really caused all of us to take a hard look in the mirror and understand how much work we had to do with our students. And it was really a clarion call for action.
This is back to the early 1980s, the early Reagan administration. The U.S. Secretary of Education at the time, Ted Bell, said, you know, we need to get a blue ribbon group together to take stock of how we're doing as a country in education. And by 1983, they had come up with this blockbuster of a report.
Let me put this into perspective for you, because this isn't just about students failing anymore. Economically, high school dropouts were earning way less than students with a diploma, and that doesn't make them a failure per se, except maybe in the eyes of the government. They were technically paying less in federal and income taxes because they were making less, meaning also they were much more likely to depend on government assistance programs.
I mean, are you alleging there's something fishy? Okay, the US government obviously doesn't want a population that isn't making a lot of money and thus isn't paying a lot into taxes and is also a drain on the welfare state. That's obviously something the US government would want to reduce, but it would also want to reduce that for I guess, tax reasons as well. Notably, the fact that you can't exactly have the richest, most powerful, most prosperous country on the planet if your population is rapidly losing access to the quality of life that makes a first world country, basically. You know, like that's a real problem when American wages are dropping, when politicians actually care about America being strong and, you know, good. We see an immediate and rapid response to such things, even from past Republican administrations. Trump is so corrupt, though. The well-being of America is not even close to on his mind. In fact, the amount that he virtue signaled that he was doing this for America and Americans, considering that he is as much of a liar as he is, should have told you that he is not at all loyal to America. Like, Donald Trump might actually be internally, ideologically, one of the most hating America, anti-America presidents we've ever had. We've always known Donald Trump, you know, he's projecting, he's lying, he tells us the opposite of the truth every time. You really think the amount that he screams about his love for America and how much he wants Americans to be strong and healthy and well off, like, it's probably the exact opposite. He probably hates America and Americans and thinks very low of all of us and of the country itself, if I were to guess. That's why we're not seeing any real response to the education crisis in America, not like what even Reagan was able to pull out of his ass, because Donald Trump doesn't give a shit about Americans. He barely pretended to give a shit about Americans. So, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, though, well, I do think there is a problem with literacy and with education in general in America. I just don't see it as this big new thing. Like, Americans have just always been really, really stupid, and we've ignored that fact. We've denied that fact. We've pretended it's not true for a long time, but it just is. Americans are stupid. We think we know best how to educate students, and we would never look at, say, other European, or not other European, but we would never look at European countries and be like, oh, it seems like they're actually doing very well in terms of education. Let's try what they're doing, because we always have some reason for why America is so unique and different that it just wouldn't work for us. He probably wishes he wasn't born in any democratic nation to begin with. Oh, well, someone like Donald Trump needs democracy to exist to gain power, but, you know, Donald Trump used democracy to destroy the democracy. He probably doesn't think that highly of it. Didn't Trump once say he loves the poorly educated? Oh yeah, he said that. He did indeed. Anyway, though, I just don't forget that the rate at which you're seeing the youth literacy rates plummet, the rate at which you're seeing dropout rates rise for the youth, it's actually not that significant compared to the adult population of Americans. Not saying that to, like, excuse the problem. I'm saying it to remind you, if you think it's bad now, it's been getting bad for a long time, and we're only just now really noticing.